Welcome back to the Whatnots Reactor Core number 119. My name is Kyla Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson to talk about the Yellowjackets Season 2 finale. Melissa, we are finally here. How are you? How are you feeling?
This was a really surprising episode, and it packed the biggest stuff into like the last 8 minutes.
Interesting. Yeah, man, I want to say I have mixed feelings about the season finale, but I think that's just it being a season finale, right? There's still a lot of things we don't know the answers to yet, and so I'm frustrated at some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But also just like, I thought it was good. It was fine, right? It was good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I just got done watching it like an hour or two ago. Already went online to see what people are saying, to see if I missed anything in my notes, all that good stuff. I think I found something that I haven't seen many people talking about yet. So we'll see. I doubt I'm the only one who noticed this. I don't think I'm that smart, but I did see something that strikes me as odd. But we'll get to that in just a bit. So yeah, please continue. What were your kind of general thoughts on this season finale?
Last week we were talking about how we are sure somebody in the modern day timeline is going to die. When the girls are talking about how, or Lottie is talking about how there is the force that followed them back from the woods wants something. It wants blood. It wants sacrifice. And then in this episode, they're like, we return to our hunt ritual that we are like just starting to see them adapt back in the 90s. They're pulling back out this whole thing that they set up, like time for the hunt ritual. We all know how this goes. We all make our masks. We burn a deck of cards. And so they're going forward with that. And I think this episode does a nice job of bringing together all the modern day storylines and putting a lot of characters on the board in the same physical location where any one of them could get killed at any time. I liked that.
Absolutely.
I like that ride of never being sure, like who the victim is going to be at different times. It seems like there are different options. And the person who does end up dying was an absolute shocker.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed this finale. Though I don't think it was their best episode of the season per se. I don't know. I'm not actually like ranking them. Yeah. But like we've talked about previously, I did feel like there were moments in season 2's plot or like the reveals that they had that felt like season finale moments. And so we were kind of like, well, what's coming down the road here? And so on one hand, I didn't necessarily feel like there were any huge reveals per se, but it did tie a lot of loose ends up, or at least put a cap on them for now to be like, hey, it's at least gonna calm down a little bit for right now. And that there is a finality in that, right? So it did feel like a season finale, but also it almost felt like that's the thing. I went online to see what people were saying. I went on Reddit for a like, okay, couple days before the finale comes out, what are your final theories about like that's about to happen? And I saw some people talking on there about like, I still think there's a secret 10th episode out there. So apparently we weren't the only ones to like be confused about 10 episodes potentially. And I think with the way this finale went, I almost am wondering if it was intended to be a 2-part finale that they kind of mashed into one, because I felt like there was a lot that happened in here that I kind of would have liked to have certain things have a little bit more room to breathe, or maybe have some other kind of big reveal mixed in that we did not get, that maybe they're saving for the season 3 opener. Who knows? But yeah.
My feelings were that the episode, I think, was putting a lot of its focus on the modern day timeline, which has always been the less compelling of the two timelines for me. And everything that was happening back in the 90s was what we were expecting. We knew going in, Coach found that cave, it's time to eat Javi, etc. And it's not until like the end of the 90s timeline scenes that then you get something that's really interesting. So I was a little mixed at the beginning, but by the end, I'm like, there is really intriguing stuff here that my brain is still chewing on.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There are still a bunch of unanswered questions.
To dive right into the final scene of the episode with one of my most unanswered questions, the odd conflict about this show is that the audience is asking way more questions than the characters are asking at any point. Like, as soon as in like episode 2 or 3 of season 1, when the girls get to the cabin, you're like, I want an inventory of every item in the cabin. Like, what are there clues here? What can you piece together to find out the identity of that dead body?
His history, right?
Right. And nobody ever does that. Like, the girls are in this space. The girls and everybody. Travis can investigate things as well. Anybody can. But the characters there aren't looking into what you want them to look into. Like, the only puzzle they are worried about solving is survival. They're not like, gee, I wonder who used to live here. Can I find any hints? Like, that's just something they're never
who owns the
interested
deed to
in
this house. I'd like to know.
I was always hoping the cabin would turn into a puzzle box. Like, they would find a hidden space. They would find like a journal under the floorboard, something like that. And I have been wondering if they were going to get to a spot where this safe house, this literal safe house of the cabin disappears. Like, they won't be able to return to it anymore. I have been suspecting maybe there's a fire or some natural disaster or something at some point that takes them out of there. And then they have to make their own shelter. So I was excited to see that turn, but I was disappointed that we didn't get more out of the cabin while we were still there.
I gotcha. That makes sense. The thing that I'm gonna keep teasing here is at that scene when they're all watching the fire there's something I noticed.
What is it? Because I was looking. I mean, I didn't like go frame by frame. I didn't go seek out theories or anything like that. But I was keeping a sharp eye out. Like, is there a shape in the smoke?
No, I didn't see that. I was thinking back to the season 1 finale when Jackie was dying and her visions seeing Laura Lee and that weird mysterious guy that's only credited as the hunter. We haven't heard of at all this season, and it's still not confirmed if that was the dead guy upstairs or not, but who knows? But when they all escape the burning cabin, which since we're already here, the cabin was set on fire by Coach. Or at least it makes sense. It wasn't explicit, but he's holding the matches in that one scene. We'll get to more of that.
That is something I want to talk about.
They escape the cabin. They're all outside. There's only 9 of them. There's a shot of 9 of them standing there. That's not all of them.
I know.
There's girls missing. And so I don't know, like...
That's what I was wondering. I did pause on that to see if I could get a head count of it, because they're all together in the cabin, but I don't know if there's been like an establishing shot of here's literally everyone left alive in this area. And I don't know if that shot at the end is the others didn't make it out of the cabin, or they're just off to the side. They're just literally not within the frame of that shot. You know, it's possible that there's 2 huddle groups, not just one big huddle group.
It has the like not overhead views exactly. Like, you see different angles and they are all hunched up in that one big group, and then there's that one shot of them like looking directly all in the camera, and there's 9 of them.
That's what I'm talking about.
Is how much I counted, And I think just trying to remember like who all is there, there's at least 10 or 11 of them, I think. Like, because there's the 6 women that
Yes.
we know survived, right? There's Nat, Shauna, there's Ty, there's Vivian, there's Lottie, and who else am I missing?
Misty. Yeah,
and then the missing in Misty.
Yeah, and then you have Travis.
Then you have Travis. Then we know that there was Akila and Mari.
Yes.
That's already 9 of them. But Pink Hat Girl is also there. And then there was the other, like, she hasn't really been named yet. She might have, but we don't, like, she had like 1 or 2 lines like last episode.
Yeah.
So like there's 11 of them, and then we don't know
Dripping
exactly
Girl, or was that
Coach
more?
is. That's
there's a girl named. Okay, I think there's a girl named Olivia. In the end credits, there's a girl named Melissa, but I don't know if anybody verbally points one out as being named Melissa, so I don't know which one that is.
We did have someone comment on our YouTube video last week that Pink Hat Girl is Melissa.
Okay, thank you.
So, named after our host, Melissa Wilkinson. But yeah, so if there's only 9 of them there in that huddle, where are they? Are like I don't know if that is going to turn out to be a mystery or not. If it's just like they were back behind someone and you couldn't see, or who knows?
Yeah, or it might be a Schrodinger's cat thing, where when they are planning out season 3, maybe they've yet to decide: do we want some people to have burned, or do we want them to be alive? Huh?
Did they escape with Coach? Because he at first tried to get Nat to come with him and to the spot that Javi was hiding out.
This is my thinking with Coach. It's so episodes ago when they are eating Jackie, it's everybody else there but him. He is horrified, but he never says anything. He never tells them to stop. We can see how he is feeling, but he's become so withdrawn and private this season that he never talks to the girls about, I hate that you, or the kids. I keep saying the girls, like Travis isn't there, but like the kids.
He's one of the girls. He's an honorary member.
He's talking, like he never says to the kids, I hate that you did that. Like, we can't do that again. You have to find something else. Like, he has truly given, I think after when they voted Jackie out of the cabin, I think that's when he realized, I have no power here. And he's just withdrawn completely. Yes. And when he sees that they have butchered Javi, which is also interesting, that like when they ate Jackie, they just dove right into her. This is truly the first human butchering scene. And I like that it had that weight for even if they've already eaten somebody, what a line that was to cross to butcher a human being. But he goes up to Nat and he's like, you aren't like them. I think because it seems like he ties the cannibalism, maybe not literally, but on a similar level to the sort of cultish following of Lottie, and he doesn't like or trust any of it, even though again he's never said a word about it. This is like his private journey he's going on, and he's like, Nat, I know you don't believe this, I know you're better than this. And she's like, no, I'm not. I let him die in my place. I'm just as bad as the rest of them. Like, you can't save me. And so he leaves. He can't start a fire. I love the shot of him just clacking rocks together and he can't start a fire. So he comes back, he gets the matches, and he sees them sort of anointing Natalie as the new queen.
Yeah.
And then the fire happens when everybody but like Shauna is already asleep. So it seems like that's later. And I was wondering, Occam's razor tells us it is Coach. But there's an ambiguity and a strangeness there. Like, okay, he doesn't trust what the girls are doing. He doesn't want to be a part of it. He's going off on his own. That is, abandoning somebody and outright killing them are very different things. And it is strange that he would cross that line to be like, I hate how these girls are, how these kids are surviving. I kill them now. They don't deserve to live. And if he's doing this, like, why is he waiting until all of them are asleep? What is he just waiting out there in the cold? Did he go to the cave and come back?
I think he went to the cave and came back. If it was him, because you are right, there is still some ambiguity. As much as the show is like pointing at him, like, look at him holding the matches, right?
Yes.
We also don't know where Crystal is. And that's
also something I was thinking about,
right? But I do think if it was Coach, I think he would have gone back to the place to either get more supplies or out in the woods, because he also took the hatchet that was outside.
Yeah.
And the girls are locked in somehow, so I'm wondering if he went to go like get some branches or stuff to like barricade the door or something. Like he had to have some set up time and have to wait till they're asleep in case he's like making no noise and stuff. He doesn't want them to just be like, who's outside, right?
Which is also a question. Like, first off, there aren't that many windows on the cabin. He could sneak around to another side and light it on fire right in that moment. If we imagine that he planned this out, like, I must kill them, I must wait until they are asleep, I must barricade the door, this will take several hours to do. That's not only this act of mass murder, but this act of premeditated, even by a couple hours, mass murder. And again, that's like a stronger line that this character is crossing now. And which isn't to say it's impossible. Like, if they come back and it's revealed, yes, Coach did light the cabin on fire, I guess he did. There is just a strangeness around it in that, okay, this is stretching me a little bit. You haven't broken my confidence, but this really feels like there's something more here.
I think Coach also is very much so a broken person, and he was about to kill himself. Don't forget that. And while we did get a scene of Misty talking him down, kind of in a weird way, he did decide to not kill himself. I kind of mentioned last week when we were talking about those two episodes, like, maybe he's kind of putting it together that Misty was the one that killed Crystal, even though she didn't particularly say, in that, like, maybe he's just starting to put some of the pieces together. And so with him being so far gone as to wanting to try and kill himself, seeing these girls cannibalize Jackie, suspecting Misty of killing someone, and now like coming back to find them, like, he doesn't know exactly how Javi died. He just saw him getting butchered, and that was kind of
that's true.
He might think like, hey, I know I'm not gonna survive out here. I can end my life by killing all the rest of them and just being by myself out here. I'll starve, who knows what, or I can then go jump off in peace. Which is rough to think about, but having seen that stuff, right? Like, I'm wondering if he's thinking like, it's better if none of this gets out. Like, we might as well all have just passed away on the plane there.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But
that's rough.
To talk about, I did think about how Crystal is still out there, and I can see that she would have a grudge against Misty, but I can't see Crystal lighting the entire cabin on fire and putting everybody at risk, unless there is some other force at play. Like, we were wondering if something was possessing Javi when he came back.
That's true. Yeah. We got possibilities for sure. But yeah, let's jump back to the start of the episode here. Or
I
did you
do
have
just
one more
want to
thing you
say
wanted to say?
just
Go for it.
briefly that I have wondered since season 1 if it's going to come out that they left somebody behind out there, and
Mhm.
Coach splitting off on his own is the first hint that something like that might have happened textually in the show. I
Yeah.
like there is like this isn't something that I think there have been clues to, just something that your brain can imagine as a story hook. There's an adding weight to why the girls don't talk about what that space, not only what it was to them, but what it is. Like
Or
there's
why
no
they haven't
mention of like,
mentioned Coach yet. Right? I mean, they haven't
yeah,
really mentioned any, like, they are as secretive as they
right.
are. They haven't mentioned anyone by name yet,
Yes,
which is
yeah,
odd.
like they only mention the characters we know who are right there, and like Travis who died in early season 1 and Jackie who we eventually find out is dead. Like that's it. They're never like, remember all the great times we had with Melissa and her pink hat. Every time we see pink hat, think of
What a
Melissa.
great pink hat, right?
But I think that is an interesting plot development to have somebody who just got either abandoned or separated, or as we're seeing with Coach, purposefully split off from the rest of the group. And
Yeah.
maybe we don't know how they got out, if they got out or if somebody rescued them, came and got them out. If the kids were like, we're not going to tell them Coach is still out there, because then they're going to ask, why were you and the
Questions.
Coach separated? We
Right.
don't want him
Yeah.
to tell them anything about ourselves. Then they
Exactly.
just essentially leave him for dead. Maybe with the trying to help their conscience by saying, well, he's probably already dead.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I say we wrap up kind of the 90s timeline here, dive into more of that stuff. Of course, Travis is distraught that Javi is the one that is brought back dead. My partner and I thought it was weird for Nat to say it happened so fast when they all just stood there and watched. And Misty was the one that stopped her, but I understand it at the same time.
Relatively
too,
fast,
right? Yeah. What was interesting to me about Travis is when Shauna eventually steps up to be the one to like go and butcher him, and she steps outside. Travis, he almost had, you've seen that painting. I don't remember what the name of it is or who did, but you know that like angel or demon guy who's like looking here, and he has the like real like evil looking eye, like he's been crying or something. Who like he almost had that look to him. And the first thing he says is no. And I thought he like, is he gonna stick up for like not eating them? Is this gonna be another split? But then almost immediately just accepts it. And like I think it was a strange scene for me, because like what Nat said, that happened so fast. Like he's distraught, he's crying, he's angry, but then he accepts it so fast. And just lets them do, because he knows that they need to survive, right? Like,
right. And I think there's a hesitation on his part to eat Javi himself, whereas he wouldn't stand in the way of anybody else doing it. I feel like that is him giving up to, I understand that you need to eat him. And then it takes him a little while longer for him to realize I need to eat him too. I think there is a purpose behind, not just in her role as Team Butcher, but with Shauna being the one standing in front of him. Like after everything Shauna went through, losing the baby, I think it's a statement of like, if I am surviving what I went through, you can do it too. You have to do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we see Shauna stepping up to butcher Javi. She is trembling when she does this. She like she knows she has to, but I don't think she wants to. We see that in the way she pulls down her like scarf thing over her eyes, so she doesn't have to like physically watch it. Which then makes for a very like intimate scene, right? As she has to like feel around his body to like, where is his neck? Here it is. This is the good spot. I put my knife right next to it. right? Like she has to get her hands dirty, but does not want to really face it. Is I think what that scene was trying to communicate. Let's see that by time he is all cut up and all of that good stuff. Because we've already talked about Coach coming in to see the aftermath of that and just being horrified. Trying to get Nat out of there, and she's just like, nah, man, I'm worse. Shauna brings the meat inside as they have their fire going. And at this point, it's Travis that like they give him the first bite. And they give him the heart. I thought he was gonna like sacrifice this to the skull or throw it in the fire and that be like their funeral for him or something like that. But no, he takes a bite out of this uncooked heart. And then I think I kind of laughed at this scene because he eats this and then like sticks it on the pan. Right. And so it's like, did he like think he could eat it and then was like, yep, nope, this needs to be cooked.
I really wish there was a conversation between the kids of them trying to figure out how they would eat a person, just piecing together like what they remember from health class.
Well done.
No, they're just like, all right, using what I learned in high school health class, how would I butcher a body? How would I know what parts I should eat, what parts I shouldn't? Is anybody like, I used to go fishing all the time with my dad. This is how he would gut a fish. Like, I want to see more of the legwork of these kids putting together their survival plans.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, they start cooking the meat and they eat Javi. And to rewind a little bit, let's go back to Lottie. She's still looking not great. Her face is still all swollen, but she is recovering. Misty is the one that comes upstairs to break the news to her about Javi, because she doesn't even know exactly that they decided to do this hunt.
Yes.
Thing. At least I don't think so. She was not down there with the cards, right?
No. All she says is when she's sick, she's injured, she tells Misty, if I don't make it, don't waste my body.
Right.
And Misty comes downstairs and tells that to the girls. And I forget which of the kids it is that says,
I think Van.
We should, maybe it is Van who's like, we shouldn't wait to eat her if she dies. If Lottie is this sick, she's never going to be able to heal her injuries if she's starving. We have to feed Lottie. And the only thing we can take from is one of the rest of us.
Yeah. So she breaks the nose, to which Lottie starts being like, hey, I never actually wanted this. Like, this is not, we've gone a little bit too far here. And then Misty's next line kind of stood out to me because despite them, like they never really talked about Jackie.
Yeah.
It's mentioned here in they make references, but they never really talk about it. And even when Lottie is like, hey, if I don't make it, no one ever says the actual words like, eat me. Like, I give you permission to eat me or anything like that. Misty just flat out says, we're going to eat Javi. And I think that was the first time they've ever like actually vocalized it's like literally. I know there's been references to that stuff, what they've done, right? But like that stood out to me as like, I think that's the first time that they just said it outright. And she's like, we're gonna eat him. Misty also, when Lottie starts showing her doubt, Misty is the one that says, you started this. It's done. And so I felt that it was also interesting that Misty is kind of the one that pushes Lottie to continue this of like, it's almost too far gone. Like, don't stop now. Like, you need to continue this because you started it.
That
Misty,
was
instigating
interesting.
always.
This season, from where we were in the season 1 finale, where it's revealed that Lottie is still alive and she sent people to kidnap Natalie, to where we are now, where Lottie is not as powerful as we were led to believe she was, which has been an interesting set of reveals. That she starts this sort of interesting faith based largely out of her experience with Laura Lee, being so scared, wanting like something to believe in, something to hang on to. And so Laura Lee baptizes her because Laura Lee was this incredibly faithful character to Christianity, to like a faith we all know and recognize. And then she gets a taste of the concept of faith. But it's always been really interesting to me that it's not based in anything. It's not modeled after anything specific. They're just sort of inventing it on the spot with what's in front of them. They're not trying to emulate a religion or a mythology or even a story. They're not doing anything they saw in a movie. Yeah.
Wicca, right? Just like I'm not even sure how to describe or talk about that.
I don't know it well,
but it is this like believing in nature, almost animalistic thing, which I don't know if that is offensive to say about Wicca or not, but I don't intend that to be. But yeah, at the same time, though, they are also just kind of making it up as they go, right?
Yeah, and I like that you can see maybe influences the writers have, but there's no clear influences on the characters. It is being made up on the spot. Like one person will do one thing and then all of them will just adopt it. There's the group think that's happening there. It's interesting to watch that play out and to watch it be transmitted from character to character, to watch it catch on the way that it has been, where Lottie tries to back off on this whole sacrifice faith that they've all developed until Misty's like, you started it. Like if you cutting your hand and putting your, putting a bear heart in front of a tree stump, we draw like the line comes from that to we let Javi drown and we are going to eat Javi now. So she kind of pushes her into it. And then Lottie realizes, I thought the woods were on my side. I thought I was the most attuned with them. I'm not anymore. I think it's happened to all of us. I think the strongest person it's happened to is Nat. Nat is the term we've been using is antler queen.
Yeah. Yeah. And that night after they eat Javi, as you just mentioned, Lottie comes downstairs. They're all kind of excited to see her, that she's up and she's moving about. But as Van is trying to make up some bedtime story that is seemingly about them, right? Lottie interrupts, and that's when she expresses her doubts, right? Expresses her doubts about how much power she has within the group. Like, you all made me the leader, but I can't hear, like, I don't feel its power anymore like I used to. And that's when she nominates Nat to be the next queen, as she says, we tried to kill you, but it wouldn't let us.
Yes.
Like, you were protected, and that, I think, symbolizes power to them. And that's when Coach is looking in the window, witnessing this and being like, no, it's I mentioned to my partner, it's like the opposite of the sicko meme, as the guy's like looking in the window being like, yes. It's anti-sicko mode. He's just like, no, right? He's gone anti-sicko.
All the teens are sicko mode now.
Yeah. They're the
But there's
sickos, but Coach is anti-sicko.
I I like seeing Van retell movies to the other teens like they are bedtime stories. That's a
Yeah.
nice connection to her running the VHS store. I like
Yep.
that everybody's got a different favorite movie they want her to tell them about. And she starts telling a new story that's about them. And she says, like, the woods were so dark and so lonely, they made the cabin. Something like that. I like that sort of, and I don't know if that's going to turn out to be literal in the mythology of the show, but it is an interesting perspective from one of the characters living in the cabin. Like the dark
It
energy here just
manifested it,
birthed
yeah.
this place. Yeah, like there has never been a human touch on this land. You know, no person truly built this place. It's this like maybe they did, but they were under the control of some dark forces and it's a cursed place. We're like, this is the equivalent of the Overlook Hotel or something, but it's one cabin in the woods. You've always been here.
Exactly. Yeah, that is an interesting thing to think about. I think not only this episode, but the show, obviously throughout it, like, is seeming to suggest maybe there is some dark force or some supernatural thing, but never explicitly says it. And so it's always left open to interpretation.
What in season 1, it was a lot more ambiguous. Is there something supernatural or paranormal going on? Or is it all not all in their minds like they're delusional, but is it all created by the teens? And I think there's more hints that there is something supernatural going on, but there's still a lot that is just the teens. Like it is not, it's still over
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
them.
Yeah.
And I really like, I think it's what Shauna says to the rest of the Yellowjackets when they were about to hunt her in the woods. She's like, there's the dark energy out there was us. It's always just been us.
Yep. Speaking of Shauna, the last thing about the 90s timeline is right before they discover the fire, Shauna is upstairs in the attic, I think by herself, and she is journaling in her little diary, and the stuff she is writing about is very much like, why wasn't I picked? Why am I like I thought it was Jackie, the one that made me invisible. So I think she's kind of jealous of Nat that she was nominated as this next later here. And if you were gonna go super tinfoil hat down the like supernatural stuff, did she manifest this fire in her own like anger, right? Again, if you go down to like witchcraft supernatural route, that is a possibility that she's the one that manifested it. Maybe not on purpose, but just in her like jealousy and anger of everything she's been through and now not being paid. Like, I'm the one that knows how to butcher things, like you guys wouldn't be able to eat this without it.
Sure.
Without me, like
maybe she sees the fact that even though her baby died, that she survived the birth at all as like a blessing from the woods.
Sure.
Like it must mean something that I was able to
first.
Get through that. Yeah. I think it's nice that we did get to see her writing in the journal again. That was a big part of season 1 that hadn't been in season 2 yet. One thing I want to mention, another big thing in season 1 that hasn't been in season 2 at all, except for the opening credits, is that man with no eyes.
He's been in season 2, but briefly, and it hasn't.
Can you remind me?
When Ty is sleepwalking at the start, closer to the start of the season, when Van is kind of accepting the sleepwalk and then starting to follow her. There is a scene of the no-eyed man being the one to lead Ty out there, and that like it is the most clear shot that we have of of him, and he's like physically moving in the space. He's not just like standing there.
Right. I remember. Yes, I remember all this now. Why did I? So much happens in this show. By the time you're on episode 9, you've forgotten something from like episode 3 or 4. Exactly. I'm still intrigued by him, by that force, especially because we saw the flashback where she saw it on her grandma's deathbed when she was a little girl. That's the only, except for that vision sort of thing that young Lottie has about the car crash, which that's the only other piece of sort of magic stuff that was like outside of the woods before they even got to the woods. Right. And you can see like Lottie's vision of the car crash being similar to these sort of glances at an alternate universe. It seems like characters have been getting this season, like the mouse is alive, the baby is alive, I'm back with my boyfriend, etc. But the no-eyed man feels different than everything else we've got going on.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, that's kind of the 90s timeline. Ends with that cabin burning down, the smoke rising in the sky. Again, we know that they are there for at like just about another year, maybe a couple months after that. They have one more winter to go through. So I think people being like, what if someone sees the smoke? I don't know, maybe, but I don't think it means rescue. I think someone may see it, but they're going to be walking into these feral, cannibalistic women just being like, what the hell, right? Yeah, and Travis. Cannibalistic Yellowjackets. I'm
trying to stand. Not even him. He's just like the coach's son. I'm trying to standardize it and just say teens. I'm going to try and that's my style guide. Teens. He's not
coach's son, right?
No. Oh, the head coach, not Ben Scott, but like that. Who's the assistant coach? Who they just call coach now in the absence of the actual head coach, Javi and Travis's dad, who died in the crash. So Travis, I'm very sorry you lost your dad and your brother over the course of these months. Hope you're hanging in there.
Ooh,
I have been
too soon, Melissa.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Good.
I have been wondering since season 1 if somebody would find them pre-ambiguous rescue event that eventually gets them out of the woods after 19 months. If they would encounter like some other plane crash, lost hiker thereby. I don't know if it's a lake or a river, if there's like somebody who comes down on a boat.
Right.
Who knows? I have been wondering for a long time, are they going to encounter other humans? Not sort of weird supernatural. Right, exactly. If there's this cabin, how do we know there's not more? So I do like the idea of somebody finds them, but it isn't rescue. It means more distrust or war or something like that.
Or or like the realization of what we've become and we can't let him leave now. Something like that. But let's skip ahead to the modern day timeline. We have adult Shauna, who instead of drinking the poison that Lottie had there, was like, what if we do a hunt instead? They're like, all right, sure, cool. But they like want to go full on back in the woods. Let's make masks. Let's get a deck of cards. Let's do this the right way. And like that's so these women are yes.
I just want to say that this leads us to believe that when they were all running out of the cabin in the fire in the middle of the night, somebody thought to grab the deck of cards. Like they purposefully took that with them in the house fire.
Potentially. It could be in someone's
which is interesting
bag.
thinking.
They were grabbing stuff at the end, like they were yelling, like grab what you can, like get all, like they wanted to save all of their stuff because they knew how much that meant for their survival.
Right. Yeah. I just think it's interesting. Maybe some like the cards were just like in a bag. Maybe,
Get
they're
the
like
games. I can't. What do I pick? Connect 4 mousetrap. I don't know. Leave them. Get the deck of cards. We can play so many more things with that.
Like, is it already in the back of somebody's mind? We will have to do that again. The deck of cards was a fair way to choose. I have to grab the deck of cards.
I'm sure that was on someone's mind there. Yeah. But yeah, they propose the hunt. They go full on back in the woods. Which I like. What I was about to say is like these women are all dealing with a lot of trauma. They've come back together, realized that it's probably a lot worse than they realized, and we know that they are broken. But the way that they suggest the hunt and do the masks and all that stuff, and what I just said, like let's do it right. That feels like the most rational thing they said in the weirdest way, because that's not rational at all. You guys are about to do this hunt where you decide you're about to kill one of each other. Like the whole
fact
thing is
that they that they got to the point where they developed such recognizable like rituals. It seems like they did this multiple times. We don't know how many times they did that. But it's so absolutely like riding a bicycle. They never forgot it. They know everything they have to do again.
Yeah,
and the fact that it's like 25 years later that ritual has never lost its weight to them. Like what happened to them out there left not just this indelible trauma, but this indelible, like, that's the truth. That is reality now. We do this, it works. And as the decades have gone on, a lot of them, are like, there's something to that. If we did it again, it would still work for us the way it used to, even though now the point isn't to eat for survival. It's there is a force that came out with us that demands a physical sacrifice.
Yeah. Even when Shauna suggested the hunt, they were kind of hesitant at first, even though they all went along with it. It wasn't until Misty, again, pushing Lottie into continuing this stuff, is like, go get a deck of cards. And so when Lottie leaves, they're all just like, fuck, like now we actually have to do this thing. To which Misty is then like, I've bought us some time. She goes to get that. Like we can figure out what we need to do with Lottie. And it seems like the plan is to go along with it as much as they can, but call crisis services to have Lottie taken away again. And once they take her away, they don't have to do the ritual. They can just deal with Lottie, and that's it. Which is also not dealing with Lottie. They're just locking her up. But we do have a conversation between Van and Ty, to which Van is like, hey, like this is not how we help her. Like she needs help. This is not how we help her. Like, would you like it if I did that to you, Ty? Like, you don't think you would get the help you need there? To which he's just like, yeah, no, that's not happening. So unbeknownst to the rest of the group, Ty cancels the crisis services call and says like, we're taking her to a different hospital tomorrow. She's calmed down. Everything is okay. Meanwhile, while they're doing all that, preparing for this hunt, Jeff and Callie are in the car, and he's like, no, Callie, disappearing is harder than you think. It's not like the movies. He's having trouble. It's like he has no idea like how to calm her down and be like, here's how we disappear. But just the fact that they're having that conversation, I thought was really
he's
funny.
like, we could never order our favorite takeout again.
Yeah, and he's so serious, he's focused, and he's so focused that he has not noticed Kevin in the car behind them, following them the entire way. Not even like 2 blocks down the road. Like, let's keep our. He's just literally right behind him.
Yeah.
Doesn't notice because he has no idea what to do. And so, yeah, this I think was the first thing that I was like, I was not expecting this. I was not expecting Jeff and Callie to show up at the camp. Like that's not. I did not expect everyone to like convene on the camp in that way because last week when the older women started talking, like right before they decided to do the hunt, they almost got overheard by a few of the campers, including Lisa, the one that Nat almost stabbed in the
face. Thank you, because I've never entirely retained what her name is.
I had to look up her name before we started recording. But like then we do see Nat go to Lisa and be like, "Thank you for trying to teach me forgiveness. Get the fuck out of here. Something bad is about to happen." And like when we got that first scene of her like almost overhearing them arguing, to then this scene where Nat is like, "Get out of here. Like you don't have to be one of these people." I was like, that's it. Lisa's the one. She's the one that dies.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
And then Jeff and Callie show up. Yes. And I was just like, oh no. Now,
and then you've got
be either one of them, and then the cops are right there. And I'm just like, well, I would like it if Officer Douchebag, bit the dust here. But
what is his name? Caramonso?
Syracusa or something like that.
Syracusa. Yeah. Yes.
He's Officer Douchebag in my mind. That's all he is right now.
There's a local sports bar called Cusimano's, and my brain keeps wanting to say Cusimano's, and I know that's not it. So I keep getting things that are like a syllable.
Cusimano, pink hat girl, But yeah, they show up, and I'm like, man, it could be Kevin, it could be both of the cops. Like now, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Callie, it was interesting to live in the space where it might have been Callie. I have become more interested in her this season just because of she is the one youth. She is the one like teen Yellowjacket equivalent in the adult Yellowjacket timeline. She's older than them. She's like 18 or 19. But she's in the story that is primarily about teenage girls, she's the one teenage girl now. And I'm wondering what that could turn into if the way of thinking that like transmitted among all the teens back in the 90s, is that contagious enough that she's going to catch it to some degree in modern times.
She's very much an interesting character. Like I like that they were fleshing her out a lot more in this season, but now going into season 3, she's a much more interesting character to me because she's a
lot of potential.
She does. And like I see her character go, like there's multiple ways that she can go, right? There is this fear that she has that she is like her mom, as she has just started to see the tip of the iceberg of maybe her mom's a little unhinged, right? Maybe she's done some dark things. She knows she's had some trauma, but she has that moment with her dad where she's just like, am I like her?
Yes.
And I think that's kind of her fear, that some of this trauma is rubbing off on her or will rub off on her. But also at the same time, she likes that she's been connecting with her mom, even if it is over hiding a murder, right? Like she still does not know the full extent. And so I'm wondering if she does end up finding out more, like, because I think she was standing right there when also Lisa shows up at the end with the shotgun. We'll get back to that in a sec. But everyone is like, wait, you killed people? What's going, like, there's obviously, it's starting to bubble over and burst. Their secrecy that they've kept is maybe not going to be kept for much longer. And so I'm wondering if this will scare her straight, in a sense of, like, I wanted to connect with my mom. I was willing to kind of reach into that darkness to connect with her.
Yes.
A little bit. But once you include cannibalism and murdering multiple people, like, that's drawing a line there. So there would be some incredible dramatic irony of her having then to work with, again, I don't remember his name, but Officer Douchebag, to be like, hey, I'm gonna come clean. Here's everything you need to know here. That would suck. I don't want that for her. But also, I feel like she does kind of like this connecting with her mom, and I don't know, like, she almost doesn't seem like traumatized by it as much, or she's getting used to it in a weird way. I don't know.
I think back to the conversation that Shauna and Callie had in season 1, when Callie knew that Shauna was cheating on her dad, and she threatens to tell Jeff, and Shauna's like, okay, you can go ahead and tell him, but we are going to drag you down into a messy divorce. Like, this house is going to get so hostile. You're going to have to be a part of that. We're going to have to spend your entire college savings on a divorce trial. You're going to have to split everything between 2 homes. Everything's going to feel hollow. Do you really want that? And I wonder if that is going to echo and put Callie in a situation where she's not going to be in the mindset to turn her parents in for anything that they might do.
Yeah.
And she's always had, I think the conversation last episode that Shauna had with Lottie, I think, about the goat, where she's assigned to take care of the goat, and she confesses since she lost the baby, after having this vision where the baby was alive, when Callie is born, she's like, I always kind of kept her at arm's length because I was like, is this real? Is she really mine? Is she really going to live? Is she really alive now? And I think that Callie has been aware of a distance between her and her mom that is not all on her as perhaps a classically surly teen. She's like, there's something up with my mom and how she reacts to my dad and I. And every time she learns something about Shauna's past, there's a really great look on the young performer's face of just real empathy, real pain. Every time she hears about the baby that she lost, or in that episode in season 1 where she takes the football uniform, not the soccer.
Not knowing that.
Right, we're not in Europe.
Right,
it's soccer.
Football, but
she takes the uniform. She takes the uniform and wears it for Halloween. And she's like, Mom,
Jackie's, yeah.
Right. And she's like, Mom, I know she was your best friend. I know you lost her. You never really talk about her. I know a basic fact about you, Mom. Why don't you tell me more? Why don't you share things with me? You can't tell that really pains her.
Yeah.
That there's this sort of one-sided relationship between her and her mom that then makes her bristle up. It started with Shauna. And yeah, Callie she's retained a lot of empathy, but you're right. She isn't as traumatized by the things that have been happening as you might imagine she would be. I think the thing that bothers her the most is secrets. Even as dark as information might be, I think she prefers it if you tell her. So as long as she's in a situation where even if people are getting murdered and eaten and sacrificed and hunted or whatever, as long as people are honest with her, I think that saves a little bit of her spirit,
Yeah.
sort of.
She as in the words of her younger mom, wanted to be like her and her mom against the world.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I think that's where we're going to go.
Like, we've also been talking about like the cathartic experiences that these characters could have down the road to get over and past this trauma. This could be one of them. It might lead them into a dark place first, but I'm wondering if Callie wanting to really have this relationship with her mom is the thing that ends up saving her mom and kind of pulls her out of the darkness where they both no longer have to be in it, right? Who knows?
Yeah. Like that's to have somebody who loves her who could save her is a good point, because looking at the 90s timelines, you have these two romances. You've got Travis and Natalie, and you've got Ty and Van. And everybody else, like, they care about each other. They are allies. Like, Ty has Shauna's back, but there's love is a word I am hesitant to use for some of the 90s relationships.
Sure.
Because they are bonded, but again, like, I don't know if I would say they love each other. Like, there is this
trauma bonded, for sure.
Yeah. But the love that I think that Callie and Jeff do have for Shauna, no matter what it has been that she has been through, and Callie, especially now that the doors are opening up, that she feels that her parents are sharing things with her. Yeah, I think that could be a really powerful, positive force.
Absolutely. We also have Walter here at the camp. He shows up. I loved this. I thought he is great in this episode. Him interacting with Jeff is amazing in this episode. I laughed so hard.
He's just so eloquent. Everything is so well planned out. He's so polite. He's so well spoken. Like, it's so a really nice juxtaposition to Jeff's like dumbass energy.
Yeah. So we have the like older Yellowjackets having their plot line over here at one part of the camp, and then all of the like side characters are interacting and having their own like B plot over
like
here,
that.
and it's great. It's so good. And as Jeff and Callie are trying to brainstorm, like, how do we rescue Shauna? How do we, get her out of this? This is where they see Kevin, that the cops are here too. To which Jeff's response is like, well, shit, if they followed us here, like they know it's us. Like, through all of this stuff, like, I am not built for this. And so he just like walks up and basically confesses. He asks Walter to leave the room for a little bit so they can get some privacy. But what Jeff doesn't know is that when Kevin was searching around, he walked in on Walter making some poisoned, some drugged hot chocolate, which I assume was for Lottie. I think this was Misty's plan, that in the when Walter gets to the camp, he sneaks into Lottie's office, which is where he finds Misty like going through all of her stuff. She finds the drugs that she's been on, the name of her doctor, like all that stuff. Then finds her phone. No messages on that, but as she hears someone walking in, so she hides behind this thing, and it's Walter calling her on the phone, so she can hear the phone buzzing. He's just like, Misty, are you in here?
Right.
She's just like, what? You're here?
And he showed up already in a purple sweater, just walks in like he already belongs, which is the one
so he had in his closet from the week before.
But he doesn't go through like the check-in process where they take away his phone.
Right.
It's really small, but I like that they thought of that. Yeah.
He snuck in. And that's what I assume they planned. Like, hey, I have her drugs. What if we like just as we're all preparing and talking, we can offer like some hot chocolate or something, just something to sip on while we're waiting to murder each other. And they drug it. But as I loved Walter's reaction when he found out Kevin was a cop, because I now know that he was acting, right? But my first thought is, wow, he is so sincerely in awe that this is a cop, a detective. He's like, I'm a detective too. Like you and me, like we're the same.
Same.
Yeah, which is not the case at all. At all.
I did like this stuff. It's a really nice showcase for Walter. I enjoy that character a lot. I'm so happy he's still alive and present in the story at the end of this episode. The one tiny qualm I have is that when Walter asks Jeff to help him move Kevin's body, I say body like he's dead. He's just unconscious. But like they're not wearing gloves, and like there would be DNA evidence on Kevin's clothes that they picked him up.
Walter is smart enough to, as they move him, they can wipe off and who knows what.
It's not a hard surface though. I don't know if you can do that exactly. And I don't know if that is, maybe it is something where if you just like pick up an unconscious guy and your hands were on his jeans, maybe you can't really get any DNA from that. Maybe it's something they realized like on the set day of, and they're like, oh, there's no like rubber gloves around. Like we're not able to get anything. We have to shoot on schedule. Maybe nobody will think about it. Or maybe this is going to turn into something. I really wasn't sure.
Yeah. It might. Yeah. But yeah, like Kevin just falls over as Jeff is talking to him, and Walter just sticks his head back in, is like, hey, that was fast. So yeah, they hide the body in, I guess, one of the cars, and they set it up so that Officer Douchebag now has to go look for Kevin. He was confronting Callie, who had the gun behind her back. And like I thought something tense was about to happen there too. But he gets this like weird phone call, radio transmission thing that sounds like Kevin. But it was in fact just Walter setting things up here. And as he finds the body in the trunk of the car, Walter just runs up behind him, grabs the gun, and kills Kevin. And is like, all right, before you freak out, here's the game plan. Like, you want all of the, like, X, Y, and Z. I am basically setting you up so that you come out on top of this false corruption case. He was the one that killed Adam. He was the one that did that. Like, you will now be a hero, right? So
what a
don't
thing to pin on
up.
Kevin. Kevin always seemed pretty nice.
Yeah. So, oh well. But that, like I just, he runs up and shoots him like 3 times. It's just like, oh my God, what is happening here? So that whole thing is wild. But then, the Callie continues on to then find her mom just being hunted, like just starting to run off into the woods here. And she ends up shooting Lottie in the shoulder, like in the arm.
Just grazes her.
No idea exactly what's happening. This is when Lisa shows up with the shotgun. Everything is super tense. And Misty makes a play to kill Lisa because doesn't want to kill Shauna's daughter. That would be a bad move, but this is an outsider, so to speak.
Yes.
Right? So Misty goes to stab Lisa with more of the drugs that she has, but Nat sees this happening and steps in front of it, gets stabbed with the drugs, and ODs immediately.
And it's I wasn't clear immediately. Is that more of the deadly poison from before? Is this a tranquilizer? No, she is dead. And they asked Misty, what can we do? And Misty's like,
it's
nothing.
Too late. Yeah. She's
I was not expecting this at all, except for Van's cancer. I have never thought about any of the adult Yellowjackets being in mortal peril. I've never thought any of them were on the table to die. So this was a big surprise.
Last week, when we
I knew
like,
that
I'm wondering it might be coming.
I was imagining there was going to be a hunt and somebody would die, but I'm like, it's going to be one of the supporting characters. It could be Jeff, Walter,
same here,
Lisa, one of them. And I like that this episode put like almost all the supporting characters on the table, or at least in the same physical space where something could go wrong and it could be one of them. And this is the death, that it is Natalie, after we just saw her in the previous episode in the flashback letting Javi die in her place. Yeah. She's not letting it happen again.
This is kind of where one of my problems with this episode comes in. This is the cathartic experience that I wanted Nat to have. I think it came way too early. I think if we had sat with Nat a little bit longer and she had come to the conclusion that, like, hey, to get over this trauma, or I just wish that the show had made it a little bit more explicit that she needed to save someone to kind of get over this trauma, to be okay with that. And I don't think it really did. Like, it did. We knew it, but I felt like it just kind of introduced that, especially since Javi just died last week. And this is kind of like, I just feel like I wish we could have sat with that a little bit more, to have it be maybe a little bit like, maybe I'm being selfish and I just want it to be a more heroic moment. Okay. Right. And not this, this abrupt, like, oh my, what just happened?
I understand that. It hit for me because of the major thing that it, at this time, we know would impact that decision from her is very fresh in our minds because we just saw it.
Yeah.
And then also there's a really nice effect on Misty, who we saw accidentally kill her best friend in the 90s, accidentally at the time she believed killed Crystal. And now, like in season 1, when they go on the little road trip, in this season where she shows up at the camp and everybody's like, you know Natalie? And she's like, let me tell you about Natalie. Natalie's the best. Now she has also been in a situation where she has accidentally killed a best friend. And this time it is for real and permanent.
Yeah, that's the thing about her scene when she meets back up with Walter and he's like, hey, I took care of the Adam Martin situation. It's not going to be a problem. She just kind of breaks and is like, I killed my best friend. And I've already seen some people being like, well, of course that's Nat, but also it means Crystal. And I don't know, like, we don't know where Crystal's body is. Did she survive somehow? Maybe. Or did like, it is the thing of, at one point, she definitely did think she killed Crystal.
Yes.
And so there might be a moment, season 3 or down the road, where it's revealed that she's still alive and she has this relief of just like, oh my God, thank you. Like, I didn't want to kill you. But I also did want to kill you because you were about to tell everyone. But like she has that relief of just like, thank God, like I'm not the one responsible. And here she is, where it finally happened. And I think, because like we were talking last time when we discussed the Yellowjackets, when she went into that sensory deprivation tank, she had a weird trip, crazy vision thing, but walked out of that being like, you're a closer, like more confident in who she already was. There was not a break or change in her character the way Ty kind of finally came to terms with, I need help, like, or Shauna, like, I need help too. Like she hasn't had that I need help moment yet. And I think this was it. That this was her low point, that like it finally happened. The thing that I was so scared of all those years ago finally happened.
Mm.
So
I
yeah, I mean,
really
like
like.
I love all of these cathartic
Yeah.
moments. I think it's great for these characters. Just that one with Nat specifically, I think has come a little bit too soon.
Okay.
But
I understand that you didn't see enough runway to
yes, yeah,
that
like
moment.
it's ultimately what I wanted to have happen.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I what I really like about that scene between Walter and Misty is that she breaks down crying and turns away from him. And then he immediately like pulls her back into a hug and holds her. Like,
yeah,
she has this awareness of, I have destroyed everybody who I have come close to, from Crystal to Natalie, even to some degree to Jessica Roberts, who she kept a prisoner in her basement and in a weird way sort of befriended. They had a rapport. She liked Jessica and then killed Jessica.
right, yeah,
You can see that she's scared, like, if it's not by my own hands, something's going to happen to Walter, even though he can't really see that far. He doesn't have that context. But I think it speaks very highly of him that he's like, no, I am here. I'm right here. Like, I think they have a lot of potential to be, again, this real positive love of not just, and that could be the theme of finding somebody who loves you for all of your faults and all of your
sure,
skeletons in your closet. Like,
absolutely,
not just a fair weather love, but like a true love. And that could be him. And
yeah.
I did wonder for a second when he's holding her and she cries and she says, I killed my best friend. I was wondering for a second if he was going to be like, we've all been there. That happened to me too. I'll tell you
So
about
did
that
I.
later.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
right, yes. Like, is Walter going to come out with some real dark secret? Anything could be back there in Walter's
Good
past.
lord, yeah. That is the thing. Earlier on, I saw this too. Earlier on in this season, someone mentions, "Man, serial killers love puzzles." And then later on, we see him working on a puzzle. He kills Kevin. Like he has some real big serial killer energy. But so does Misty.
Yeah.
But also, like, yeah, it's God. They are a mess. But that's kind of it. It's Nat that passes away. She has a
Which,
vision. Let's talk about
yes.
that real fast, because this is also something else that I noticed with this and was kind of expecting, and I see why it may not have been in here. I was expecting Laura Lee to be in her vision
Yes.
here,
Just
and we didn't get that.
Just because we've seen Laura Lee in visions that other characters have. She never had any particular connection with Natalie, but we have
But she also
seen
never
her.
really had a particular connection with Jackie either.
No, but no.
See,
but it makes
like
sense it makes sense in that context of
I agree.
Lottie
Yeah.
sees visions of her because she had a really profound effect on Lottie. Jackie
Yes.
sees visions of her because Jackie is dying and she knows Laura Lee is already dead. And just Laura Lee as a person of faith, she does sort of represent a godly force. You can see, I think it's okay that she's not there, but if she was there, it also would have made a lot of sense if Natalie saw her as she was dying.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just kind of expecting more of her, as she, like, I like this idea of some of these other characters coming back through these visions. And yeah, I like, we see her back on the airplane, or in airplane. It's empty except for her. And then she sees a young Javi, who
the only type of Javi there ever was.
Yeah, the only type of Javi we get. Let's see, where is this? Javi tells her it's not so bad. Then she sees a younger version of herself who says, "This is exactly where you belong." And then we see a young version of Lottie, who I'm wondering if there is some kind of connection between what we just saw of her being nominated as the new leader, as like, you were the one that gave me my chance to be a leader to help everyone survive. I'm not sure. Maybe like each person will have a different other character in their visions if this continues. I don't know. But yeah, I was just expecting something a little different with what we got there. But I think it worked for what Nat was going through and what was on her mind.
Yeah.
Right there.
It is fitting that she goes back to the plane going down in flames. I like the return of that imagery. I think that is something she had a vision about when she was doing drugs with Travis and overdosed. And it is still
dying,
a mystery point for me, in that we don't know a lot about the crash. And nobody's asking questions about the crash.
Or the people that are asking them, we haven't seen them yet.
Right. Yeah. But I was really surprised that Natalie died. I think that's a fascinating move, because so much of what the show does is juxtapose the younger and older versions of characters. So to have the older version of a character die just as the younger version of that character is going on to a really important chapter in their story, that's going to be interesting. Yes.
Maybe they do something like where the younger version of Nat is starting to see visions now and sees her older self in that. They just do the same thing but switch it, right?
That'd be nice.
Interesting.
I like any time when the older and younger performers get to act against each other in the show where they are in the split timelines. I think that's a nice opportunity for them.
Yep. Good stuff indeed. I don't know if I have anything about that episode specifically. Did you have any other kind of final stuff before we just mentioned, like, what are the unanswered questions we still have?
Yes. Oh, I just want to mention that the sense of time has been sort of abstract. I don't know how much time in the modern timeline has elapsed over this whole season.
Sure.
But as the episodes went on with everybody there at the compound, I was like, how is Simone? How is Sammy?
Right. Yep.
Nobody's trying to call Ty, who's like a senator or something. That storyline has always kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
That she has such a high profile career, but she's always off doing her own thing. And we don't see a lot of the fallout and consequences of, I forget her full name, Senator Thompson, whatever her name is. Like, you left for many days without contacting anybody. Your wife's in the hospital. Who was taking care of your son? I was even like, who's taking care of Caligula? How long are birds okay by themselves? Didn't Ty get a dog for Sammy? Is the dog just like yapping around her house? With the time gone, I wonder what are going to be the fallouts. Caligula, I'm sure, is fine. But the storyline with Ty's family and career, I'm wondering how they're going to continue with that. If there is any way that she can mend a bridge back to her wife and son. How much does she want to anymore? Where is the senatorship going? Is there going to be, are we returning to that, or is there going to be a point where this show just sort of abandons that? Because it didn't have a lot of effect on other storylines. That was sort of a closed loop. Like Ty being a senator didn't seem like it would affect what any other characters are going through.
The last thing I will say about that is that, especially with your thought of like this theme of finding someone that loves you unconditionally, right? No matter what that relationship might be, whether it's a spouse or a family member or who knows what. I think reintroducing Van into the equation is something that like I feel like those storylines are going to mix somehow. I think also at the end of this, one thing to note is that they are taking Lottie into some place. I don't know if they named it which place she's being taken, but she's also, I don't want to say being locked up, but like institutionalized is maybe the right word. I'm not sure.
And we may not see much of adult Lottie next season, which could give us more. And of course, there's no adult Natalie, which could give us space to spend more time with the adult characters we do have and get those storylines fleshed out a little bit more. Maybe this is when they really work on everything going on in modern Ty's life and give that a little bit more detail and weight to it.
Right. So yeah, what I was gonna say with that is like when Lottie is being taken away, she does confirm like we gave it what it wanted.
Oh yeah,
and she says she says you will see, and she's looking directly at Van when she says that. So they've introduced this cancer storyline. I've seen some people speculating like, what if her cancer starts to go in remission? Like, how is that going to affect the relationship between her and Ty, and Ty and her wife and kid? Right. Yes. Like, because they obviously had an attraction to one another and still kind of do.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know what that is going to look like, but it is an interesting complication, I think. So we'll see. We'll see with that.
Yeah, I think introducing Van adds, it makes Ty's storyline a lot more compelling.
Yeah. Cool. Unanswered questions so far, now that we've reached the end of season 2. We've talked about a couple of them, like where is Crystal's body? Right?
Yes.
But is there any like unanswered questions that you can think of that are really like that stand out in your mind or are bothering you?
I've got a lot of them that are series wide and not like season 2 specific. Again, we talk about Lost a lot. We compare these two shows, not just on their own, but in terms of our relationship, our experience watching these shows week to week and questioning them and trying to solve the clues. Lost is a show full of clues and characters who are looking for clues and finding clues and investigating clues. And in Yellowjackets, the audience is doing that, but the characters aren't. Like out there in the woods, especially now with the cabin burned, we can see a lot of mysteries, but I don't know how anybody gets any answers. Like we're not closer to figuring out. We are seeing more spots where that symbol appears, but I don't know how the characters get farther along in their journey of realizing what is the history of the symbol, what does it move, what does it mean. Yeah, I don't know what the resources are to solve a mystery or to try to begin to solve a mystery. So I hope that they find more resources that they can use, especially if there is a time jump like there was between season 1 and 2. If there is a time jump to spring between season 2 and 3, then they're going to be able to plant things, to eat plants, to like hunt for animals again. Like survival will be less of a concern. Of course, now they're going to have to build a shelter, but they're going to have to worry less about like feeding themselves, etc. Like they're probably not going to need to do cannibalism rituals anymore. So that does give those characters some free time, I guess, to maybe try and work on one of these mysteries. I would like to see that. I would like to see one of the characters seriously say, what is happening out here? What is this place? And try and do something. Try and investigate it somehow.
We know that Nat knew that Javi knew a place.
Yes.
And she knows that Coach has found that place. She does not know what that place is, but that I think could be the start of something like that. Hey, this like, place also has one of those symbols on it and stuff like that. Okay, what's happening here that we keep being led to these places with this symbol?
I hope that in season 3 that the teens try and do some reconnaissance or something, or just try and learn more about the setting they are in besides the basic how do we survive here.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I mean, there are the series wide ones, like what exactly is the history of that symbol. We didn't get any new information about the hunter, right? Who is this old man? And if he's at the end of the day not important, like, is there anything that's gonna kind of say that he's not important?
Is he
it was just such a weird, eerie thing that he showed up in that vision and was credited had not, again, we don't know if it's a name or an occupation, but
I really don't think it's a name. I think it is just, this is a
Melissa,
cabin.
Hunter is a name.
I know. But I don't think it's that guy's name. I think it is like, we find this cabin in the woods. It was probably built for hunting. The person who lived here must have been a hunter. Maybe he's not significant individually, but maybe he was one of a number of other people who got just sort of swallowed up by whatever the energy of the woods is.
Exactly. We have no answer on that. Still don't really know any more about the no-eyed man, like you kind of mentioned earlier. But for me, and then one I wanted to know, is there a reason people are seeing different people in their visions? Why no Laura Lee and Nat? I don't know if there's much to that, but that's just a curiosity of mine. And then for like going forward, I want to know how Lottie gets her mojo back, because I feel like when we start to see her get more into the like leadership position of like, okay, we're making a sacrifice, we're doing that, like she felt powerful. And then to see her on this camp where she is in control of her, for the most part, we do know she was struggling with those visions still. But like I feel like there is a time when Nat should get back, or not Nat, when Lottie gets back to being on top. I don't know, but
here's my question. We have the 90s timeline. We have the modern day, like, I don't know what year it's supposed to be, like 2022 timeline. It's a approximately vaguely modern times, except I don't think they had a pandemic. No indication that they have. I would hope these fictional characters were spared from such a trial. They've been through enough already. We had that one scene this season of Lottie just after they are getting out of the woods.
Yes.
Do you think the show will establish a third timeline that we will follow? Maybe not in season 3, but I would like to see if somewhere in season 3, 4, or 5, if we operate under what the creators have said that they are planning for 5 seasons, I'd like to see a middle timeline if they can do it gracefully and not overcomplicate things. A middle timeline of the survivors after they've gotten out and before we see them now, or an alternate perspective on the 90s where we see
that's
who's
the one
outside.
I want.
Yes, that's what I think that would give us a lot of information.
Yeah,
who's
that's
out
the one
there
I want. What happened
looking
to
into the crash, trying to find them?
The friends, the family, the one girl who broke her leg and never got to go on the trip, right?
Like Travis and Javi's mom.
In Lost, one of my favorite characters was Frank Lapidus, right?
Yes!
I love him. And I loved like that reveal of him being like, I was supposed to be on that plane.
Yes.
To like that immediately like got me hooked on like, I want to know more about this guy here. Who is he? And so I really want to know more. Like we've seen the adult version of her at the reunion, but we haven't gotten to see her like after the plane left and disappeared. I want not an alternate. That's a little bit of a confusing term, but like the 90s timeline, but the people at home still.
Yes.
What does the rescue parties look like? Are they searching? Where are they searching? What news is coming back? When do they stop? and then what happens when they do find them. And
I want that. It doesn't even have to be like a third major timeline for a whole season. Just like one episode would be really interesting to go back to Wisquiawk, New Jersey, and see how everybody's reacting. See how the school copes, how the families cope.
The other 48 days as
exactly. Yes, we need another 48 days of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Man, I would love to see that stuff. I'm interested in seeing what the girls go on to do after they get rescued, but that's, I feel like, also the timeline that I'm kind of least interested in, where they do try to assimilate back into, because like I feel like what we know about the older adults is that even though they moved on with their life, they never really got over any of the trauma there. And so I feel like it's a time period where you can't really do as much emotionally with the characters.
Yeah.
They can't really
that's true.
Progress. So it feels emptier in a way that I'm okay with. I'm just like, I don't need to know that stuff. Just give me the good bits.
Yeah, or maybe like one scene per character or something. Maybe it's not enough to be a whole like little subplot thread for everybody.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's the missing time in this show. It is the gap between what we see in the two timelines that is so compelling to me. I think that is the greatest strength of this show, is what's just outside of what it is you're seeing.
Absolutely. I think that's all I have.
Yeah.
Man, season 2 of Yellowjackets done. Real quick, I know that season 3 has already been confirmed. It started production, but unfortunately was only in production for a single day until the writer's strike hit and they shut down production.
What do you mean by production? Was it like in the writer's room?
Yes.
I think I remember hearing
like
that.
One day in the
they had one
writer's
day in the
room.
room. Yeah.
Yep. That was it. So they technically started, but they've also haven't really started on what's happening next. So once again, I'm in full support of those writers striking. They needed to be paid fairly. Especially since we love all of those the shows that they make. We wouldn't be here if they're not out there doing
exactly.
their thing. So
it is it is tricky to know that after you watch this season, it will be even longer of a wait until you get another new season. I just try and send good vibes out there into the universe.
Exactly.
That things go well for folks.
Yeah. I think that's about it for our spoiler cast on the season 2 finale of Yellowjackets. So Melissa, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WilkyWit. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, for more 90s vibes.
There you go. You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at The Whatnots, we are at The Whatnots on Twitter. So yeah, please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. You guys know the deal with all of that. If you're watching this on YouTube, we got some more videos for you right over there. Go check those out as well. That would help us out a bunch. But yeah, this has been number 119, The Whatnots Reactor Core. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.